Hey guys, Dunlocks here, back with our, I was going to say blind playthrough, but reaction to the mostly complete lore of Hollow Knight by Mossbag. Did I say this is part 3? This is part 3 if I didn't say this is part 3, so this is part 3. How many times did I say that? 4, I think. Anyway, so we started here, or we are starting here at the 51:45 mark at the end of the Kingdom in Ruin section, and we're about to go on to the Visitors to Hallownest section. Now, we have a few more parts. We have the base game endings, and obviously this is going to spoil some stuff for me, right? Because I have not seen... There's at least 3 endings. We've gotten 2 of them at this point, and I think there was one where you probably finish the Dreamers and then go and defeat the Hollow Knight and just get that, right? There might be more. There might be 4 endings. So that's kind of spoilers. And then there's also the Godmaster endings, which I think we're going to watch anyway, even though, yes, this will spoil the DLC. But, you know, the whole point of me watching this is so I can be fully clued in on the lore, so to speak. And maybe the Godmaster stuff is exclusive to Godmaster, but maybe not. So, you know, I'm willing to get spoiled a little bit. Anything else? I guess just if you haven't watched this video, go. I mean, don't just rely on the fact that I'm watching it to watch it. Like, actually go and give the dude a watch and a like. Even though he's got 5 million views, I mean, you know, still give him 5 point. I don't know what 1 is. What percent of 5 or a million views is like 1? It's like, well, I guess, would it be a millionth? Yeah, I don't know. Give him that 1 extra view. Because why not? Because why not, right? Anyway, let's resume.
At some point, all entrances to Hallownest were closed off, with the old well-endured mouth being the only way to sneak back in. Despite this, several people have wormed their way into the kingdom, with few ever returning. Characters like Relic Seeker Lem seem content to just pillage artifacts from the ruin.
And someone else mentioned, so, right, we're at about... How far ahead are we now at this point? In terms, I'm thinking in terms of like my publishing schedule versus the recordings. So this is episode 3, and today I just published 40 something, episode 40 something, maybe 45. In which case we're about 10 episodes ahead, maybe 2 weeks, maybe 2 weeks ahead. It's not bad. But someone mentioned, selling stuff to this guy gives you more than just money. It gives you lore as well, which that's kind of cool. At the moment, I still haven't decided if I'm going to do Godmaster for the channel. I know that sounds weird. Part of me is like, I should, because like Hollow Knight has had the most views, especially consistently, of anything I've ever done on the channel. I mean, anything real. I'm not counting the hentai games, obviously, but and so part of me is like, well, I should do that because I want to continue. But then the other part of me is like, no, because I don't want to, like, not to spite the channel, but because I don't do this for the views. Would I like more views? Yes, but I worry that, because there's like the, you know, intrinsic versus extrinsic, or internal versus external, if you don't want to be fancy. It's the reasons for doing stuff. Internal is the most pure. It's like you do it just for the joy of doing it. Whereas external is like, oh, I got to do this for the views, or I need to do it for the money, or whatever. It's why you see people, especially people that are monetized and make a living off of it, they steer away from some of the riskier stuff. They follow the trends. You know, they do one thing and then they get locked into a genre. You know, you look at Christopher Odd, for example, who you should definitely check out because he does good stuff. I got onto his channel because of like his Demon Souls and Dark Souls and those playthroughs. And but now he's mostly into like strategy stuff and XCOM. He does other things as well, but when he does stuff that's not popular or more obscure, it, you know, the views, he gets lower views, and then he's like, well, I can't, like, he's making a living and he's feeding his family off of that, so he can't do that stuff. He can't take risks. So it's a balance, but I'm all the way on the other side, whereas I want to do this. I will, let's be realistic, the market's saturated. I will never make money off of this, and honestly, I enjoy it, and I don't want it to become work. So it's like, do I specifically choose to do stuff that will get me less views? That way I can kind of, like, I don't know, man. It's like really complicated, I guess, is what I'm getting at. I do want to do Godmaster and all the DLC, because I'm kind of an achievement whore. I get the easy ones, but I don't want to do like ridiculous ones anyway. So we'll see. I still haven't decided. I keep going back and forth between doing it and not doing it. So anyway, that's my thoughts, right? I put my thoughts out there because I want you guys to know what I'm thinking. Whether it's worth it or not, who knows? Let's
Kingdom. But other bugs seemed interested in something greater. In the Howling Cliffs rests the corpse of a member of the Grim Troop. The task of this bug appears to have been to seek out Hallownest, so that the troop might be summoned to the kingdom in the future. The Grim Troop are basically a group of bugs that...
We haven't seen this, right? This is presumably when you get all the flames. We shut it down instead. Instead of choosing to complete the ritual, we stopped the ritual. So I guess that's, I don't know, that's awesome looking, but it also is kind of creepy.
Serve a higher being known as the Nightmare Heart. The troop keeps the heart alive by feeding on the nightmares of fallen kingdoms. This process also involves...
Wait, hang on, I think I cut him off. He was saying something about the Nightmare Heart, but where are we? 52...
In the Howling Cliffs rests the corpse of a member of the Grim Troop. The task of this bug appears to have been to seek out Hallownest, so that the troop might be summoned to the kingdom in the future. The Grim Troop are basically a group of bugs that serve a higher being known as the Nightmare Heart.
Okay, they serve the Nightmare Heart, which we didn't get to see, and that looks rad as hell. So why does killing them help? Is that what we're growing? Was that what that little Grim child thing, is that what that is? It becomes the Nightmare Heart? I'm sure he'll tell us in a minute, maybe. Or maybe he won't.
The troop keeps the heart alive by feeding on the nightmares of fallen kingdoms. This process also involves sacrificing the troop master to his own child because... Hey, look at this cool-ass boss battle.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. That is, you don't fight the heart itself. I think we had the Grim Child with us. But anyway.
Another important group that traveled to Hallownest are the Godseekers. After being abandoned by their old gods, the gods of thunder and the gods of rain, these bugs left their home in the land of storms, seeking out a new god to worship. The Godseekers looked to gods to save them from their own silent mind. While traveling through the wastelands, the Godseekers constructed devices called God Tuners, which helped them seek out new gods. Through this device, they were able to detect the lingering power of the Pale King and find their way to Hallownest. When they arrived, however, the Godseeker was forced into hibernation. She was encased in a strange sarcophagus-like cocoon, which was itself chained up with a lock. It's not clear how this forced hibernation worked, seeing as the cocoon appears to have been made by the Godseeker herself. As for who put the cocoon in chains, I think the most likely candidate is the Dung Defender, considering how the Godseeker's cocoon is found in the junk pit in the waterways, an area the Dung Defender has tasked himself with protecting.
Which we never found. There's so much. There's so much I've missed.
This was the general picture of Hallownest after the Hollow Knight was sealed inside the Temple of the Black Egg. The kingdom was stuck in a kind of stasis, with the Pale King civilization destroyed and the Radiants unable to break free from her chains. The Pale King was rebelling against nature, trying to keep his work standing indefinitely. The stasis over Hallownest held for an age. How long is that exactly? Well, we have no idea. As I'm sure you've noticed, there really isn't a timeline for anything that happens in this game. We also have no idea how long any of these bugs can actually live.
Right.
Elderbug wasn't around to see the stagways open, but we know several other characters were, implying that Elderbug is probably one of the youngest characters in the whole game.
That is crazy. And how do you know that all these other characters, including Jontron, saw the stagways open? I guess they must have mentioned it at some point. And that's the thing, like, this video is the result of, you know, combing through like the text dumps of all the scripts, all the speeches, every little piece of text and scrap of, you know, lore and dialogue and everything else. I do wish, that's my only, like, I like the video. Thanks for recommending it. The only thing is I guess I'd rather see one. Not rather see one. I would also like to see one that kind of goes through that, you know? Because this is basically the dude, the guy that put this together, he did all the research and he's like, okay, and then this video is like, okay, this is what happened. Let me tell you what happened. But I want to see this is what happened, and I know this because of, you know, this text, and this text, because of what Sly the Shopkeeper said, because of what you know, the Elderbug said here, because the Stag said this, right? This is more documentary style, whereas I want something more like research paper style, if that makes any sense. Maybe that was a poor analogy. Either way, let's keep going.
But this stasis over Hallownest wasn't going to last forever. At some point, the Radiance erupted out of the Hollow Knight, cracking its shell and releasing a loud and powerful roar. The amount of infection leaking out of the Hollow Knight became even greater. The many corpses that lined the roads and cities of the kingdom sprang to life with the amplified power of the infection. This strengthened infection prompted the departure of the Weavers back to their old home. Now this old home might actually be Farloom, the kingdom in which Hollow Knight Silksong takes place.
Which, by the way, already... So that was one of Neryl's complaints about... Not that Neryl is necessarily an authority figure, but one of his complaints about Hollow Knight was that everything looked too samey. I mean, I was fine with it because it sets the tone, right? Like you don't necessarily need something like this. Like this is very, like this screen is very colorful, but it doesn't also fit. Like something this colorful would not fit within Hallownest because it's too vibrant. You know, the whole point of Hallownest's color palette is that it's dead, right? It's sorrowful. It's I don't know if you heard that. One of my cats slammed against the sliding glass door. Must have seen a bird or something. But it's like Demon Souls, the original, maybe not the remake necessarily, where everything is sort of, you know, desaturated and sort of like gloomy looking because the whole thing has this aura of depression, right? It's like that's the whole thing, especially for Demon Souls, because like the colorless deep fog is like literally leeching the life out of everything. Whereas with Hallownest, it's like it's like a tomb. It's like a kingdom in ruins. You know, especially when the infection comes back and then you start to see like oranges and everything everywhere. That's, you know.
But the amount of knowledge we have about Silksong right now is pathetic, so I'm not saying that's confirmed or anything. This is also around the time that Quirrell arrives back in Hallownest. His memory of Motomon appears to have been clouded due to his time outside of Hallownest. These events are depicted in the Quirrell prequel comic, which also shows an image of the Hollow Knight with a pre-cracked shell. This could mean that Quirrell's arrival happens roughly the same time the Hollow Knight's shell cracks. At around the same time Quirrell arrives in Hallownest, we also see the arrival of the player character, who is commonly referred to as the Knight. The Knight was one of the lucky vessels that was able to make its way out of the abyss. Somehow the Knight ended up venturing beyond Hallownest and into the wilds beyond. It's implied that the Knight was called to Hallownest by either the sealed Hollow Knight or the Radiance within. Regardless, once the Knight shows up and yeets itself off this cliff, the actual game of Hollow Knight finally begins. Now, there's a lot of details we could get into. Hallownest is full of NPCs and bosses, each with their own stories to tell.
Wait. Fluke Hermit? What the F is this? Okay. Something else I missed. Jesus Christ. Like...
But to be honest, I don't think we need to go through all of them, since their stories are relatively straightforward. For example, let's look at the Brooding Moloch. So why is the Brooding Moloch brooding? Because all its friends are dead.
Oh, I was hoping for that joke. As soon as he's like brooding, I'm like, oh, sad. Oh. It's like a dad joke.
And there you go. That's the lore for the Brooding Moloch.
No,
also, it's the only character in the game with a visible asshole. Now, did you really need me to explain that to you? Probably not. So instead, I'm just...
I mean... Okay. When it said brooding, I thought it was going to be like egg laying or something, but it might actually be brooding because it's sad. Like, that might not be a joke. That might literally be the reason. Which I don't know if that makes me more disappointed or not.
I'm going to talk about the interactions relating to Hollow Knight's main story. The Knight is eventually noticed by Hornet, who lures it deep into Greenpath. There, Hornet attempts to kill the Knight, claiming that she knows what it would try to do. At this point, Hornet views the Knight as being too weak.
Why? That's okay, so that's the great question, is why is she trying to kill it? Because, so I guess they refer to this as the Knight because technically it is a Hollow Knight as well, but it's confusing to refer to both of them as Hollow Knight, so it's like the boss is the Hollow Knight and this is the Knight. I guess she's more worried, if I were to guess, that, because his point is to, I mean, you potentially could, of course, kill the Radiance, but also defeat the Hollow Knight. But and I'm sure Mossbag's about to say this, if she thinks he's too weak, that means he's probably strong enough to destroy the seal, but too weak to kill the Hollow Knight, and thus free the Radiance and doom the world. It's not clear.
After the fight, Hornet can be found in the City of Tears, next to the statue of the Hollow Knight. Hornet mentions that the Knight has gained a resilience, due to the time it spent in the void beyond Hallownest. This could be referring to the fact that some of those who leave Hallownest lose their memories, meaning the Knight would have no memories of its own tragic conception. Hornet tells the Knight that if it seeks to continue the stasis that keeps Hallownest standing, it must seek the Graven Ash, which is referring to the Kingdom's Edge. At this moment, Hornet sees the Knight as a possible replacement for the Hollow Knight. Basically, the Knight could break the seals that keep the Hollow Knight locked away, defeat the Hollow Knight, and contain the infection itself. It's at this point that I should mention that Hollow Knight actually has 5 different endings.
Okay, one of them looks like it's got the flower right there. And, well, maybe. Right, so we've gotten 2 of them. We got, I think, the upper left and the lower right. I think the lower left, obviously, is a... I mean, that's Legend of Zelda, so that's not real. Then the upper right is Godmaster?
Because of course it would. I'm going to be explaining each of these endings in this video, as they each give us a different glimpse into the mechanics of Hollow Knight's world.
Right on.
Now, to get the easiest ending to Hollow Knight, Hornet's instructions to go to the Kingdom's Edge can be ignored completely. If the knight stumbles upon the resting grounds, the 3 dreamers will appear and cast the knight into the dream realm. There, Seer will come to the knight's rescue and...
He says stumbles into the resting grounds. I'm pretty sure you have to do this. I mean, I don't think you can beat the game without it. Right. And I'm pretty sure this... Because when I beat the game, I looked through the achievements, not the hidden ones, but like in... Like, you can either go to Steam and it'll show you the non-hidden achievements, or you can go into the menu for this and look. And there was something about... I don't know, it said something about finishing the game. And I was like, oh, that must be the one that I missed. Right? But apparently there's 5. We'll see.
Granted the Dream Nail, a special blade that can tear the veil between the real world and the dream world. With the Dream Nail, the knight can venture to the resting places of the 3 dreamers, curb stomp their asses, and unlock the entrance to the Black Egg. Inside the egg, the knight finds the Hollow Knight chained up, silently watching over it. Once the chains are broken, the Hollow Knight screams with that familiar Radiance roar and pursues the knight. As the fight progresses, the Hollow Knight starts trying to kill itself, Quirrell style.
Was it? The impression I got was that it was like it's under the control of the Radiance, and so it's actually trying to release more of the infection. That was the impression I got. And I'm pretty sure it's backed up by the fact that as it progresses, like it, once it does that, I could swear that it gets more orange, and also then it starts to like float around with like the pustules and everything.
But that...
And I don't... Did Quirrell kill itself? You saw the sword left behind and no body, so I assumed Quirrell went elsewhere.
Then the Radiance starts using the Hollow Knight's body to perform her own attacks. Once defeated, the Hollow Knight begins to spew infection all over the place. The knight can then focus the infection into itself. This results in the first ending of the game, called Hollow Knight. In this ending, the knight usurps the Hollow Knight, prolonging the stasis over Hallownest. New chains and bindings appear out of fuck if I know, and contain the knight, and a new seal is placed over the entrance to the Black Egg. Now there is one giant question looming over this ending. Can the knight actually contain the infection indefinitely, or will the Radiance still manage to break free one day? Before we answer this question, let's look at some of the other events that can transpire while playing the game. If the player chooses to go to Kingdom's Edge, Hornet will challenge the knight one last time as a final test of strength. After her defeat, Hornet allows the knight to access the cast-off shell, where the Pale King was originally hatched. By interacting with this egg, the knight's shell is marked with the king's brand, technically making the knight the new ruler of Hallownest. With the king's brand, the knight can now open the entrance to the abyss and discover the place of its birth. When leaving the abyss, the knight can encounter Hornet again.
Why did getting there grant us the king's brand? Also, I mean, just the fact that there was, when you approached the egg, that looked artificial as well. You coming this way, Manny? All right, cool. Well, come on then. You want to get in my lap? All right, let's get in my lap. There we go. It looked artificial, not just because of the fact that it resembled that thing in the abyss, right? And it looks like there's like tubes and stuff coming out of it, and then also you get close to it and it looks like the glowing stuff around it, as if it's not natural, right? And that's what I thought, right? which, especially if there's prescience, or however you pronounce it. Do you want to cuddle? Is that what you're here for? Or yes, you want to cuddle? Okay. I'm gonna burp, Manny. I smell it. You're gonna make biscuits? Okay. So I mean, my thought is that the king set all this stuff up to, well, I mean, technically whatever you do is preordained, right? So the king would have set all that up because he knew that the first Hollow Knight would fail and that this one would succeed and eventually kill the Radiance, right? It's, a self-fulfilling prophecy. But I think it's, yeah, I disagree with the egg thing. I think it's possible the king hatched out of it, but it looks like it was at least tampered with afterwards.
For the first time, Hornet suggests that there are actually two outcomes the Knight can enact. She tells the Knight that it can either prolong Hallownest stasis or face the heart of the kingdom's infection. Within the Knight, Hornet sees a chance for change. Instead of just replacing the Hollow Knight, Hornet believes that it may be possible to get rid of the infection completely.
Where is this? Did we see anything? That looks like the Abyss. What do you think, Manny? Are you... Oh, okay, I got you. I got you. Do not fear. Do not fear, my cat. You are my brother.
By using the void inside of the Knight. After visiting the Abyss and obtaining the Shade Cloak, the Knight is capable of reaching the White Lady, hidden away in the Queen's Gardens. The White Lady tells the Knight that she has been awaiting a vessel to accept a gift, that gift being one half of a charm called the King Soul,
that's where we get it.
Which she claims will give the Knight more power.
Oh, you don't have to go.
The White Lady goes on to explain that she can feel the weakening of the Hollow Knight within her roots. She tells the Knight that it is free of the blemishes that made the Hollow Knight a flawed vessel. From this dialogue,
which is really interesting. Free of the blemishes that made the Hollow Knight a flawed vessel. So I don't remember that. I don't remember it a lot. I was mentioning to, I don't remember the dude's name. Anyway, or a girl, who knows? It's that the thing about this is, even though I try to record when I can, several, right? So like on a recording day like today when I'm not on call, normally I would try and do several videos, like 3. But I'm tired. And I've been really tired lately. So I'm going to do 1 today. And the other couple days ago when I recorded the other part of this, that was 2 videos. And so, some days like a weekend, I hope to do 6 or 7. Because I have like the full day. But what it evens out to with all the call and the is it really averages 1 per day. And so I forget a lot of stuff. So, it might take, you guys, when I did the Dark Souls 3 videos, for example, there was 100+ episodes, and that's like 3-4 months. And so even though I'm recording, on a weekend, I might do 6. I might not record anything for the rest of the week, unfortunately. And so it's like, well, 3 months into it, I'm still recording the videos, and I don't remember what happened 3 months ago, and I don't... Where did the cat go? And I don't really have the time to go back and... Let me rephrase that. I do have the time if I wanted to. I used to rewatch all this stuff back when I first started, but that took even more time. And I just... that just then literally takes all my time, and I have no time for anything outside of work besides the channel, and that sucks, because then it becomes work. Hey, Manny, you are back. Why don't you get in my lap, crazy? Come on, in the lap. Into the lap. Where are you going? You are a silly weirdo. I don't remember this long story. I just forget stuff, I guess is the point. I forget stuff, and it takes me as long as you guys are watching it, it's as long as it takes me as well, basically. So if it's 30 episodes, 60 episodes, whatever, it does take me about a month or 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever to play through the game. So just FYI, if I do forget stuff, that's why.
It is implied that the Knight truly is a pure vessel, capable of containing the radiance successfully. But it's not quite that simple, so we're gonna have to dig a bit deeper into this. Basically, we're gonna need to answer a simple question. What exactly does it mean to be a Hollow Knight? Despite the White Lady's words, we have a number of instances where the characters and
that also said Steel Soul Jin, which I wonder if that's something that's only available, that character, presumably. Something that's only available on as a Steel Soul playthrough.
item descriptions mention that the Knight has a will, and maybe even a mind. But from the Pale King's dialogue when describing the Hollow Knight, it is stated that a pure vessel has no mind or will. So is the White Lady wrong? Or maybe even lying? Her eyes have been clouded by time, and she can be tricked into thinking that Ogrim is in the room.
Alternately, well, I guess you could say the king was wrong. But if the king can see the future, then he shouldn't be.
When the Knight is wearing the Defender's Crest charm. She also thinks that Drya is still alive, which, So
yeah.
Maybe the White Lady is just senile. My problem with that theory is that the White Lady states that the vessels stand out to her clearly in a misted world, due to them being her spawn. She also questions whether or not the Knight sought her aid, which would imply that the Knight must have some kind of will. So for whatever reason, the White Lady thinks the Knight is still capable of containing the radiance, even if it's still able to make decisions. After all, the Hollow Knight was considered pure, but they still taught it how to wield a fucking sword. I mean, if the Knight were truly and completely hollow in a literal sense, it probably shouldn't even be able to walk, or draw a map, or open a goddamn bank account. In short, this whole concept of being hollow is so abstract and hard to define, I don't really feel comfortable giving a solid answer on whether or not the Knight is or isn't truly hollow, and I think the game leaves room open for other interpretations.
Not to be pedantic, but I'm going to be pedantic for a second. I mean, I guess I'm not going to be. I mean, he's asking whether the Hollow Knight is truly hollow. I mean, obviously it's more of a figurative thing, or referring to the void, but also that dark absorbs light and all that stuff. I mean, its purpose is to absorb the radiance or contain the radiance.
Of course, the White Lady's
or kill the radiance, which is what we did.
Gift is useless without the other half of the King's Soul. In order to reach it, however, the Knight must travel to the White Palace, locked inside the body of a King's Mold. In order to bypass the seal, the Knight must use a fully awakened Dream Nail. It can do this by bringing 1800 essence to the Seer, allowing her to sharpen the weapon's blade. If the Knight does this, the Seer remarks that the Knight truly is the wielder that her tribe has been dreaming of. There's no explicit reason why the Moth tribe was dreaming about this supposed wielder so much.
She also says the crimes of her tribe, which is interesting. I noticed this when I was going back through, because I do review some of my videos occasionally, but just don't have the time.
But it seems like they believe the wielder would wash away the crimes the Moth tribe committed by...
Why do I always talk right before he does?
turning their backs on the Radiance. The Seer seems to know that the Knight might kill the Radiance, and she seems accepting of it, ready for her and her tribe to disappear and be forgotten forever. With the awoken Dream Nail in hand, the Knight can travel to the Pale King's refuge and locate the other half of the King's Soul charm. When equipped, the King's Soul provides a never-ending supply of soul, making it almost useful if it weren't for the insanely high cost of the charm, and the painfully slow rate at which it increases, and the fact that the charm will get replaced in about 5 minutes after you get it. The King's Soul charm itself symbolizes the union between two higher beings. To me, this implies that the King Soul is a representation of a vessel, which also was created by the union of two higher beings. With the King Soul in their inventory, the Knight now gains access to an area in the Abyss called the Birthplace. In this massive pile of vessel shells, the Knight can find a giant egg. Dream nailing the egg allows the Knight to access its own memory when it was cast down into the Abyss. From viewing that memory, the King Soul charm is replaced with the Void Heart charm. The recollection of this event allows the Knight to come to terms with the void inside itself. Once the Knight has the Void Heart, the Shades in the Abyss no longer attack it, and that strange creature that gives the Knight the Shade Cloak calls it the Lord of Shades.
Oh, I should have gone back to that thing, but I didn't think about it. And I didn't even think of using the nail on it, the dream nail.
In other words, the Knight has now bound the once fragmented void under its own will, allowing it to control the void in a powerful new way. With the union of the void, the Pale King, and the White Lady, the Knight has gained a strength before unseen. It is with this charm that 2 additional endings become unlocked. Hornet will now be standing outside of the Black Egg, offering to help the Knight should the opportunity arrive. Midway through the fight with the Hollow Knight, Hornet rushes into battle, subduing the Hollow Knight and piercing its shell. It's at this point that the Knight is given the perfect opportunity to enter into the mind of its sibling, fighting the source of the infection head on, and finally putting an end to the Radiance's tyranny. Or it can just stand there and let Hornet get knocked unconscious. If the Knight finishes off the Hollow Knight as usual, the sealed sibling ending occurs. Basically, it's the same as the Hollow Knight ending, but now Hornet is in the room too, and her face appears on the door of the Black Egg. It's not clear what exactly this means for Hallownest. This might imply that Hornet is now a dreamer, but she's inside the temple, meaning that no one can actually get in there to kill her should the Knight ever start leaking infection.
Well, that and there's no way to get the dream nail either, so it doesn't really matter, I guess.
At the same time, Hornet mentions that the bindings of the Black Egg would drain her, so she's probably just going to die anyway, right? Generally, people consider this to be one of the worst endings, but it's worth pointing out that Team Cherry doesn't support any one ending as being the true ending. Each ending is canonical in its own right, and honestly, this ending isn't the worst. At least the Knight and Hornet will get to spend some quality time together. If the Knight does dream nail the Hollow Knight, it will be taken to an arena where it can finally fight the Radiance head on. But the Knight isn't alone, as the other Shades from the Abyss will appear in order to help corner the Radiance.
Pretty awesome.
Eventually the Radiance gets trapped in the tendrils of the Void. The Knight bitch slaps her a couple times, and then the Radiance is consumed into the darkness. The Black Egg then appears to turn to shadows and the Void seeps down into the ground. Hornet awakens to find the Knight's broken shell lying on the floor. We get one final shot of the Shades in the Abyss going to rest, and the game is over. This ending is called the Dream No More ending. The Radiance is gone, and Hallownest is finally free from her infection. Now I think it's fair to ask a few questions about how the Dream No More ending comes about. When the Hollow Knight was initially chosen to become the pure vessel, the Abyss was sealed up and the rest of the vessels were left to rot away. But somehow, vessels ended up outside of the Abyss, and then one of those vessels was used to replace the Hollow Knight. Exactly how much of this operation was planned, if at all? The White Lady was waiting for a vessel. Did she have any communication with Hornet? Hornet was guarding the King's Brand, the only way for a vessel to enter the Abyss. How did she know it was necessary to guard the King's Brand from weaker vessels? Hell, if the vessels did escape the Abyss by themselves, wouldn't it be pointless to guard the King's Brand, since the vessels could just creep back into the Abyss the same way? I'm not going to provide any good answers to these questions, because God forbid I answer anything.
Whoa, oh. Did Ogrim give Isma a dirty Sanchez? I mean, I know what it is, but he's covered in poop, so yeah, anyway.
In this entire video. But I do want to point out that no plans to actually produce the Dream No More ending are explicitly stated in-game. So we can only speculate as to whether or not the White Lady or Hornet, or maybe even the Pale King, knew that they could defeat the Radiance by creating a Lord of Shades, like the Knight. Regardless, the next 2 endings were definitely not planned. In fact, the last two endings that were added in the Godmaster update
There you
almost
go.
feel out of place. The Godseekers.
Well, that's also the thing, is like, which is why I'm not necessarily super upset about watching the Godmaster ending stuff, is because it's like, it might be like kind of like the Grim Troop stuff, where is it canon? Is it not? Is it? I don't know. It's extra, so maybe it's who knows. Anyway, let's watch it. 10 minutes.
Basically hijack everything to the point where you don't even have to enter the Temple of the Black Egg to beat the game.
Really?
That's like beating Mario Bros without ever seeing Bowser. But on the other hand, the Godmaster endings basically reinforce that Hallownest does not exist in a vacuum, which can help the world of Hollow Knight feel more real. Because what else is reality but just a bunch of random chaotic stuff happening all the time? If the knight finds the Godseeker in the junk pit, it will be able to enter her mind and refight all the bosses in the game. This is part of the Godseekers ritual. They basically attune to the resonance of gods through ritual combat. This allows them to ascend their minds higher, and eventually, through the use of godly focus, achieve communication with the god sleeping in Hallownest's heart, the Radiance. Now I know what you're thinking. That's a pretty convoluted little religious practice they have going on here. What's next? Are they going to start measuring the knight's Theon levels?
I mean, it actually sort of matches the Grim Troop a little bit, kind of. I don't know. It sounds very similar in a weird way. I don't know. So you find the Godmaster, and then it's basically just like boss rush mode or something similar. And then you beat the Radiance, and then that's it. I'm sure he'll tell us, but I'm just like, yeah. I mean, there might be a reason. Someone said you can't really accidentally stumble across this stuff. Although I accidentally stumbled across the Grim Troop, so who knows?
It's pretty complicated, but the point is, these Godseekers have some serious capabilities to fuck things up in Hallownest, as we're about to see. As the night makes it further and further through the 4 Pantheons, the Godseekers get closer and closer to making contact with the Radiance, locked away inside the Hollow Knight. At the end of the 4th Pantheon, the Radiance makes herself aware in this strange reunion cutscene between the vessels. But she isn't the only one to make an appearance. The Void itself appears to go on the attack, rising up to meet the Radiance's call. It's at this point that the final challenge, the Pantheon of Hallownest, becomes available. The Godseeker finally acknowledges the knight as being more than just a simple cringer, and they begin to watch the knight more intently. After defeating like a bazillion bosses in the final Pantheon, the knight finally comes face to face with the Absolute Radiance, a stronger, more enhanced version of the game's final boss. Finally, the stage is set. After roughly 40 minutes of intense agony and tedious boss battles, the knight has finally reached the ultimate enemy, responsible for the destruction of Hallownest.
Question though, is it a boss rush? Do you or do you have to, like, can you rest and save between bosses, or is it literally you have to, keep going like the frickin' ActRaiser final boss, where it's like you have to do them all with a set number of, like, one life, I guess.
Truly, this will be a battle.
And he said it's even harder, so it's like, well, I mean, it's for people that like more of a challenge. So you might be able to only get to this after you beat the game. Maybe even a couple times. Maybe even after Steel Soul mode. I could look it up, but we'll see. We'll see.
For the ages. But first, let's check in on our old pal Menderbug. As it turns out, he's still alive when the knight arrives in Hallownest, and he's still fulfilling his duty after all this time. Let's take one last look at his diary.
My lovely diary. Someone's gone and broke my favorite sign, right there at the top of the crossroads. It keeps happening too, but I just can't get mad about it. I should be thanking them.
Can we break the crossroads sign?
More chances to fix that beautiful, complex sign.
Did I do it?
And I've stocked up on spare parts, so I've no fear it'll ever stay broken for long.
Unfortunately, the only way to ever read the Menderbug's diary is to kill him in cold blood. I'm not sure why Team Cherry thought
That's not real, is it? Because he fell and then I saw like a thing appear, a hunter note. That would be weird. That would be weird if that's a real thing. But I'm sure the, completing the hunter's notes requires a guide because of all the... There's so many secrets hidden in this game, like everything.
this was necessary, but the general consensus on Reddit is that they are bloodthirsty warmongers, so it checks out. But at least Menderbug's last moments will be spent fixing one of his
Is it real? Is it seriously real? I thought he was making a joke this whole time.
favorite signs in the Forgotten Crossroads. It's comforting to think that his final seconds of consciousness were spent in total bliss, before we sent him hurtling into the infinite chasm that is Oblivion. Well anyways,
What?
the alternate fight between the Knight and the Radiants plays out differently than in the vanilla ending. This time around, the Knight is not accompanied by any shades. Instead, after defeating the Radiants, the Knight seems to transform into this monstrosity. Now this creature goes by many names: the God of Gods, the Lord Shade, the Devourer, the Void Entity.
Cool.
But I don't really like any of those, so I will just call him Bill. Bill proceeds to completely annihilate the Radiants in spectacular fashion. We are then treated to the Embrace the Void ending. Bill comes back down from the sky, dropping into the rest of Godhome. The Godseeker starts to get pulled into Bill by Void tendrils. We then cut to the Godseeker in the junk pit. Void starts leaking out of her eyes, and it appears as though Bill is making an escape back into the real world, which is probably a bad thing? Finally, we see Hornet standing outside of the Black Egg as the infection begins to disappear from nearby vines. Hornet hears footsteps coming from inside the Black Egg as the Hollow Knight reveals itself to her and the two prepare for combat. So from this cutscene, you
Wow.
can see that the Radiance's death in Godhome actually did kill her for real, meaning that the infection over Hallownest is now gone. This means the seals inside of the Black Egg probably wore off, allowing the Hollow Knight to escape its prison.
Well, yeah, wore off, or, presumably they're only active as long as the Radiance is there. That's what they're keeping in. If the Radiance is gone, no need to keep anything active anymore. Yes. Something, oh yeah, the dream essence, or the essence, or whatever. It seemed like, at least in that ending they just showed, like the essence appeared and then it was like absorbed into the void. In the normal ending where we kill the Radiance, it like sprays out, and then the Radiant, like, so the essence itself is allowed to exist, but it's almost like the void is benign in that ending, whereas in the Godmaster ending that we just saw, it seemed like malignant, like it wanted to consume everything. It sort of, because the Radiant wanted to destroy or potentially consume everything as well, but now the void wants to consume everything. I think I'm getting this right. Maybe I'm off base. I don't know. It's hard to say.
In other words, the Embrace the Void ending is a goddamn cliffhanger, and we have no idea how Team Cherry plans to follow this up. The Hollow Knight is running loose in Hallownest, and the Knight has transformed into a raging void monster that might try to destroy the entire kingdom, or at least what's left of it. What's even more strange about this ending is that the announced sequel, Hollow Knight Silksong, doesn't seem to be related to this ending at all, but that's a whole different shit show.
Right, I assume the DLC is non-canon. It's like alternate universe stuff. Even though they said they'll account for all endings, I don't think they will. Maybe they will. Who knows?
Obviously, the biggest mystery surrounding this ending is the appearance of Bill. Did this creature exist in the void already? or was it somehow willed into existence by the power of the Godseekers? Did the night turn into this thing, or did it just become a part of it? Examining a statue of this creature and other forms of the night grant the player a Hunter's Journal entry for an ancient artifact called the Void Idol, which might imply this creature might have been worshipped by the ancient civilization. But again, that's pure speculation. We don't know what this worship of Void exactly looked like. Maybe the Void they worshipped took the form of something more sinister. There is one thing we know about this monster though.
Clowns are evil.
It's weak to flowers. Yes, these things. As it turns out, those delicate flowers that Zamir has stockpiled up her ass are actually useful for something. They contain a strange power that even deters the White Lady from touching one. The Godseeker, however, is dumb enough to accept a flower from the night. If the player does this, instead of Void being released out into the world, this flower pulls a no you, and the Godseeker and Void disappear into thin air. The flower itself is described as giving off a pale light, which appears to connect it to the pale beings. Like I said before, pale beings appear to be some form of top tier gods. As of right now, we are only aware of two, the Pale King and the White Lady. But the fact that Zamir brought these pale flowers from a faraway land implies that there are definitely more of them out there. Another small hint of the existence of pale beings are the pale ore items that can be found all over Hallownest.
Okay.
Did these come from the Pale King, or possibly some other pale being? And what exactly are they? Are they poop? In general, the Godmaster endings appear to be doing a lot of setup for future Hollow Knight content. Like I said before, Hollow Knight Silksong doesn't seem to connect to these events on the surface, so we are in a bit of a bind when trying to discuss what these endings actually mean for the greater narrative Team Cherry is building.
Well, presumably Silksong is a prequel. I don't know if they said that. It would make sense. I'm sure they said it. I'm trying to be smart, but I'm sure I was told that earlier in the video.
There's definitely a lot more to consider about what the pale beings are and what properties they possess. And we also have plenty of questions surrounding the Void and how bugs have interacted with it in the past. It almost feels like we are looking through a keyhole, trying to grasp onto the totality of Team Cherry's creation. How powerful are creatures like Bill and the worms? Where did things like the Void even come from to begin with? How much bigger is the world beyond Hallownest? Is Bardoon into butt stuff?
Oh, that's Bardoon. Okay, someone commented about now that you have something, you can go back and talk to Bardoon, and I'm just like, who's Bardoon? you know what I mean? I didn't say that, but that's what I could have looked it up, but yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem. I really wish I was doing this sometimes, a little bit closer, as in maybe an episode or two ahead instead of 2 weeks ahead. But just due to my work schedule, I just can't. I have to take the opportunity when it presents itself. So, especially even the Purging Monument in Dark Souls 3, the DLC, someone was really they sort of wrote, I don't think it was poetry, but it was a hint about how to find the Purging Monument. And I saw that, I'm I felt so bad because I'm I've already sort of given up on it and beaten the game. Beat that and then beat the game and all that stuff. And I'm just man, it hurts. It hurts sometimes to proactively let you guys down, I guess. But anyway.
But of course, that's the appeal of a game like Hollow Knight. Having all of the answers to every question would just ruin the mystery of the world.
Right.
Plus, if we didn't have questions like this to waste our time on, then what else would we be doing with our lives? Go outside? Ugh.
I know, right?
And so this video comes to an end. Now I know the average attention span of a YouTube viewer is 9 minutes, so let me leave you with a few takeaways.
But yeah, I think that's about right. 9 minutes. It's the average video, they get monetized between, the most popular videos are that of between 9 and 7 to 12 minutes or something like that. I don't remember. I don't super care a whole lot. That's why. And the average attention span is just low anyway, which is another reason. Whatever. I don't edit my stuff, and if I wanted to, I would definitely make me more popular, but like I said, I only partially care about that a little bit.
1. Hollow Knight is a game about bugs. I know this may come as a shock, but it's true.
Yep.
Watch the video again, and this time, pay attention. You'll notice right away, I promise.
Bugs.
2.
Got it.
Murdering your own babies might not be such a good idea after all. I mean, this is obviously just my interpretation of the game's lore. Other people might have different views on the subject of murdering babies, and every opinion is valid, so I don't want to step on anyone's toes.
That's true. Every opinion is valid.
Menderbug is fucking dead. 4. Nothing is certain. This video probably has a few flaws in it. Trying to construct a cohesive narrative with the information found in Hollow Knight isn't exactly straightforward. I'm sure my views will change in the future, and I encourage you to explore the lore yourself. 5. And this last point is fairly obvious, but I should mention it anyway. Cory in the House is the best anime.
Right on. I would laugh if it actually was an anime. It's a show, I think. I never watched it. And this is the credits. I guess we'll stop here. All right, guys, that is it for today. Thank you guys so much for your time and attention. Really do appreciate it. Really hope you guys are enjoying these videos. I'll have to think more on it now, but at the moment, because the Godmaster, Godseeker makes it look more like a boss rush and more like a harder thing, my current instinct is not to play. At least not for the channel. I might do it on my own to get those sweet achievements, but we'll see. I might change my mind. I mean, there's still, a couple weeks before the next episode airs or whatever, and the weekend is coming up and I'm not on call, so that could potentially be good. We'll see. I don't know. So much choice. But yeah, if you watch this, thank you so much. If you watched all my videos, thank you. As always, check out mossbag, check out his video. If you like this video, watch his video too, give it a like. But that's basically it. What's your guys' unique positive moment for today? For me, let's go with the video. The recommendation for the video. It was good. It was good. Like he said, I might disagree with some of the stuff. It's the game left it intentionally vague, which I think is smart, because like he said, knowing exactly what it is takes away some of the mystery, right? Whereas if you can debate it on the internet and call each other assholes, then that makes it more fun. But that's all. That's my unique positive moment. Hopefully your guys are just as good, if not better. Hopefully better, of course. And I hope to see you guys next time. Till then, guys, take care.